All right, are you ready? He's rocked and loaded. Hey there, welcome back to the podcast. On today's episode, listen, the rubber is about to hit the road. This is when it all starts to get good. This is when it all starts to become aha.
Aha.
And then it'll go, uh-huh. And then it'll go, aha. And then it'll go, uh-huh. So we got some work to do.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh,
but welcome back to Just These Guys. We got Pastor Mike on the mic.
We got Dr. Parker in the house.
And we are getting ready to roll with chapter 3.
Yes, indeed. What I'm talking about is that this is not something that many of us, I hate putting the not in it. This is something that we could do better. Many of us struggle with boundaries. We just do, especially the way you put it. Something else that I love in reading this book, as an example, there's a spot in this chapter where you say, you even try to control how other people feel. Yes, you do. That's what you do. You write like you speak. I can hear you saying it. You even try to control what other people feel. Yes, you do. Has anybody ever told you that you write like you therapy?
You're the first one.
Yeah, I bet.
It's all you, Mike. It's always been you.
I have so many original thoughts. But yeah, boundaries. This is so big. Because it goes beyond the boundaries that normal people would expect. I mean, this goes all the way to back exactly where it starts, where we think, how we think.
And this, for those of you who have not read 12-2, How to Transform Your Mind, the original book about changing how you think, transformed by the renewing of your mind, this starts to tap into those principles at a very key element in all of this. Because again, each of these chapters are building building blocks are building you up to something. And you have to understand the prior building block before the next building block can be added. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's set up workbook fashion, because you need to get one to get the next one to get the next one. In chapter 1, or in the introduction, the basic premise that was made was that anger is good. So we're not going to try to turn it off or control it. We're going to learn how to use it and harness its power, that it was given to us for a reason. And if we use it for that reason, then we become powerful. It is our power. Chapter 1 introduced you to the idea that anger actually has a purpose and what that purpose is, so that you can now know what you're supposed to do with this energy and focus that we have labeled anger. And once you understand the purpose of anger is to solve a problem, then that starts to help you kind of discern with what I'm doing with my anger right now. Is it helping solve a problem, or is it creating more of a problem? And so, introduction, anger is good. Chapter 1, anger is a problem-solving tool. Chapter 3, which we covered last week, was chapter 2 last week. I get my numbers all mixed up. Intro, anger is good. Chapter 1, anger is a problem-solving tool. Chapter 2, we talked about the entire model of anger so that you can start to see where this stuff is going to fit in. And this is the model we're going to continually work through, because ultimately at the base of it, even though I call it the anger model for the purpose of this book, in other seminars, I call it the success model. Success model. Say that 3 times fast. But it is a model of human interaction. And once you kind of see where the interactions kind of break down, you do something, I perceive it as being directed at me. I have a primary emotional response. I make a determination whether this is right or wrong, good or bad, fair, not fair. And then, depending on how I evaluated the interaction between you and I, anger may rise up. Mm-hmm. Now, what do we do with that anger? That is a problem-solving tool. So that's what we've covered up to this point. And if you don't understand any of those, then this next one's going to be harder for you to swallow, where we come to boundaries. And you said you had an interesting reaction to boundaries, or was that just something you were?
No. So most of you know out there who listen to this or watch this that we are coming in here with nothing scripted. Doc doesn't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what he's going to say. We know we're talking about the book, but the whole reason that I came in and I said we're going to have an aha moment and an aha moment. So as I read, that's when I know something is really good. When I'm reading a book that is actually transforming the way I think, that is planting seeds of improvement, that is helping to facilitate change that I want. It's when I'm sitting there and I'm going, aha, man. And then I go, I realize, okay, this is, but the isn't a bad It's okay. Okay, I'm going to relax.
Can we get Don to record you reading?
Yeah.
Just stick the camera in the room from around the corner as you're sitting there in your Barca lounger.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Just this morning, I used the aha and the mm-hmm. And when Coco arrives in the mornings, I never really know if she's in a great mood where she's going to want to just come bounding out of the car. Mm-hmm. I always go out and I give Savannah a cup of coffee, and then I go back to the back door and I open her door, and I never really know whether she's going to be, yay, or whether she's going to be, get away from me. And so this morning she was kind of like, just wanted to get, and Savannah was in a bit of a hurry. So I was feeling a little bit of pressure to get her out. And finally I was just like, okay. Uh-huh. And I just let it be what it was. And then Savannah kind of took charge over that, and we got her out. Everything was good, but I made a conscious decision. I'm the only one I can control. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where before I'd have been like, come on. Let's go. Your mom needs to get to work. I need to go too. G-Pa's got to go. That's what it would have been.
Yeah.
But today it was like, okay. Now you're good. Let's go. We're going to have fun. Let's go see Gigi. And so it's even the little things. When we get the little things, that's when you want to get the big things. Mm-hmm. Because you realize how much better it is. How much better it is to have that self-control, to have that control that you do control, than serenity.
Curious. This is always a process question when I work with people. When did you realize you were not trying to control your granddaughter? When did you realize you were accepting the moment for as it is?
As soon, this is the trick, at least what I'm finding is, as soon as I started to go, I felt it. And okay, nope, I'm in control of it. And so I just responded differently.
That's great. Because I always tell people the timeline for transformation, first you get it when I'm explaining it to you, and that may be a year or two after the event had occurred. Mm-hmm. And then the next event arises and you get it, a month later.
Sure.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about now. That event, I totally couldn't control that. And then the next step in the transformation is you get it a week later when we're talking about it. And then the next is you get it a few days later. And then the next is an event occurs. And as you're walking away, you realize next step is the event is occurring, and in that moment you begin to realize I can't control. The final step, an event will occur, and an hour, 2 hours, 2 days later, it'll click. I didn't try to control those things.
Yep.
And it went smoothly. Because you will be living it, you will be doing it, and so you won't realize. We're keeping the audience in suspense here. Chapter 3, Boundaries. Now, there's obviously more than could be crammed into one little chapter, but for the purposes of this anger model, for the purposes of this book at this point, what is important for the people to understand is the idea that I cannot control another person.
And yet we do it all day.
I mean, it sounds so simple. Everyone will agree with me. 99% of people will agree with me.
Yeah.
What I will get sometimes is a head twist. And where they theoretically agree with me, they then want to throw out examples where they are able to control others, or maybe where they have been controlled by another person.
Mm-hmm.
But what they're going to then proceed to talk about are two very ugly words we don't like to use in relation to ourselves. The one is intimidation.
Yep.
And the other is manipulation. And so the example you were describing this morning about sometimes when your granddaughter shows up and she's in a funky mood and not wanting to get out of the car, you might have gone, come on, come on, your grandma needs you inside. Your mom needs to get to work. I need you. You're essentially, as ugly as it sounds, you're trying to intimidate her, put pressure on her, give her directions, demand she does what you do. And I'm not pinging on you. We all do that at parents all the time. Get in here. Get your teeth brushed now.
Oh, yeah. My tone of voice changes.
Intimidating.
Don lets me know.
It becomes stern.
Yep. Yeah. It's
a warning.
And I don't necessarily hear it. But everybody else does.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It changes. It's intimidation.
And, many years ago when I was working in corporate America, and it was the first time I was in a corporation, I walked out of my office with a memo that somebody had sent, and I'm walking across the building, and the director of personnel kind of walked up to me and intercepted me and said, with her hands grasped together in front of her in a very soft voice, "What seems to be going on?" And I explained to her what the memo said, and I was going to go correct, the other director. And she reached across very slowly with her fingers gently kind of outstretched in a pinching motion, and very gently pinched the corner of the memo and tugged it out of my hands and said very softly, let me take care of that for you. And I'm watching her act as if I'm an intimidating, scary figure about to go beat somebody up. Now, that was not my goal to go beat somebody up, but I had to go back to my office and just think about how I presented myself, why she was reacting that way. And I was coming off as very intimidating. And her concern is what would have happened had I got to the other director's office with that memo in my hand, how that whole thing would have gone down. We don't realize we oftentimes use intimidation to get other people to do what we want. The other tactic we use that, again, sounds very ugly when we say it, is manipulation. Now, salespeople manipulate us all the time. We manipulate our spouses, our children. We bribe them. We offer, hey, if you'll do this, I'll do that. Or we will make it sound like a very fun event. Hey, if we go, John will be there and it'll be a lot of fun. And we're trying to convince them to choose to go. We're creating this fantasy of what it'll be like so they will choose, but essentially we're manipulating other people.
Oh, yeah. When I send out text messages to the men in our church and I'm trying to get them to come out and help with a project, I will always use manipulation to get them to consider coming. I'll say something like, we're going to have plenty of help. It shouldn't take long. I have no clue if there's going to be anybody but me.
And you use emojis and exclamation points.
Oh, you have to have that in there.
It makes it sound fun.
Absolutely.
Hey.
I'm selling them on this amazing opportunity.
And then they show up. What?
Yeah. Fortunately, we usually have a really good turnout, and so I'm not made a liar. But I have no idea who's going to show up.
And the thing with these two techniques is people, develop them to some degree or another on their own. But frustration starts to rise when they don't work. And that's when it's starting to hit you in the face that I can't actually control this other person. And so I usually ramp up, the intimidation even more, start throwing fits, maybe make a few threats. We can't control other people. So this is not good or bad. It's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And once you accept that fact, now all this energy that you have can now be directed in a useful direction into things you do control. And so at this point in the chapter, I introduce the cognitive, behavioral model
Mm-hmm.
that we've talked about ad nauseum in here, that there are three bubbles here. This is all you are, is a collection of thoughts, behaviors, and feelings.
Yep.
How you think leads to what you feel. How you think leads to what you do. How you think and what you do lead to what you feel. How you think, what you feel lead to what you do. They're all intertwined, interconnected. We're always wanting to change how we feel, but we don't have direct control over our emotions. So we focus on cognitive behavioral, changing how we think and what we do. And this book is largely about changing how you think. And so we've already introduced a number of concepts to change your thought processes. One, anger is good. You've got to get your mind around that if you're going to be able to get any use out of this model. Two, anger has a purpose, and that is to solve a problem. That is mind-blowingly new for everybody. Everybody's been told, don't be angry, shut your anger down. Anger is a sin. You're going to hell for being angry. You're a bad person for being angry. So we've spent our lifetime trying to suppress this emotion and run away from it. But it is a problem-solving tool that if you unleash it in the correct direction, it can create a lot of wonderful things for your life, your marriage, your parenting, your grandparenting. You have this immense power inside of you that you are running away from.
Mm-hmm.
So these are new thoughts. These are new perspectives, new takes on a very old kind of problem. And once you start to get this into your brain, then you understand why when I ran the anger management class, it was about the third or fourth week, guys would, as they're filing in before class starts, they're sitting down, they're talking with each other, and invariably, and this is crazy, one of the men would kind of shout out to me and to the class, "Hey, yeah, you ever think of renaming this thing away from anger management to something else?" I'm like, well, this is no. You got suggestions? No, but this stuff is helping me in a lot of areas. And I try to tell my guys, my friends about what I'm learning. But the moment I say anger management, they automatically start thinking I'm a wife beater. If you could change the name of this, I could get 5 or 6 more guys to come to it. The principles, the ideas, the constructs here are about success and improving relationships and improving your career performance. These concepts are very powerful, very useful when you recognize that this is a source of energy, a source of power that you can direct for good. Then this starts to all make sense. And now, where do I direct that energy? At myself.
Right.
Because that is all I control. How I think, what I do, what I feel. So if I'm wanting to change how I feel, I change how I think. Once I change how I think and what I begin to adjust how I feel, now new behaviors come to my mind. And I mean, it's just simple math. If I can't go to Cancun on a vacation because of, COVID lockdown or something, I don't sit around complaining about not being able to go to Cancun. I start looking at other options to go on a vacation. Mm-hmm. Once I recognize it does me no good to direct any of this energy at another person trying to change them, then I'll direct the energy at myself. And so now we start to see in the book where the changes we can make. And at this level right now, getting that concept that, the Serenity prayer that many people have memorized, many people cite, many people know, it's memed out to the wazoo. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Well, buckle up because we got some wisdom coming to you. Right after this commercial break.
Yeah, because this book could easily be, like you were just saying, it could be marriage management. It can be all relationship management. Because the bottom line is, when we think about going into marriage counseling, we actually walk in hoping that this is going to help me to control my spouse better. Not control yourself.
We're going to go in there and he's going to tell her just how horrible she is.
Yeah, exactly.
Then she'll see.
Hopefully, he's going to see what's going on. She won't do a darn thing I say. It happened on the way over.
Stupid counselor.
Yeah.
He didn't know his job.
You even try to control the way people feel. Yes, you do. Yeah.
So, 12-2, How to Transform Your Mind, digs much deeper into what I'm about to say. I'm going to say it, and then we're pretty much done because just write down what I'm saying and sit down and memorize it.
Right.
That's all, we could spend 3 years pondering, the meaning behind all of this, or we could just memorize the damn thing. Fundamental number 1.
It's simple, and it takes a lot of work. So every day, work on it every day.
And if you were ever in the military, this is your first general order.
There you go. That's right.
Former military people will understand what I just said.
Yep.
I don't control 5 things: the past, the future, what others think, what others do, and what others feel. Write it down. Memorize it.
Well, that's so obvious. That's so, amen. I agree with that. I already knew that.
Yep.
I already knew that. I'm writing this down. I'm writing it down.
You guys are
and
dumbasses.
within 30 seconds, I will break the rule. I will go out and I will crush. I'll immediately start to think about the past.
Mm-hmm.
I'll immediately start to think about the future, what's going to happen.
And it's usually about somebody else.
Yep.
I can't believe they said this yesterday.
Yep.
And when I get over there tomorrow, if they say this, then
Yep.
We're living in the past. We're living in the future. We're living in other people's brains. We have zero control over any of those domains.
Mm-mm.
It is a complete and total waste of our energy.
We walk around being mind readers in our own mind only. So another little note to write down is think about what I think about. That's something that I've been trying to really drill in. Think about what I'm thinking about. And then realize, man, yeah, there's some work to be done.
If it's the past, if it's the future, if it's what others are thinking, doing, or feeling, you are thinking about, you are wasting your mental energy. You don't control those things. So stop spending time there. The example I always use is if it's raining outside, you go roll up your car window.
Right.
We don't spend any amount of time or mental energy thinking about the rain or the weather or the clouds. We expend our energy rolling up car windows, putting out salt the night before, covering our car window. In anticipation, we are controlling the things we control, which are 4 items. Write these down. The present moment. And that's why we always talk about do it now.
Yeah.
You don't control 5 minutes from now. If you have a good idea, do it now.
Yeah.
So you control the present, and in this present, you control what and how you think. Not just what you think about, but how you think about it. So you control the present, what and how you think, you control what you do, and you control what you feel.
Now this is where it gets good. It really, really is. And this is either going to set you free or it's your choice. Everybody listening, it's your choice. Because what happens when we start to think about stuff in the past that we didn't control then and we still don't control?
Well, Mike puts it very politely. And because he puts it very politely, it goes in one ear and out the other.
That's right.
But I've said this to clients, and I've had clients come back to me a couple of years later, heard the podcast, called me up and said, I'm pissed off hearing it again. Even though I know you're right, it pissed me off to hear you say it.
Yeah.
But whatever you're feeling, it is your fault. And you have to think about it that way, because you're choosing la 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 in one ear, not the other. No, whatever you're feeling is your fault.
Mm-hmm.
You don't control what other people think, do, or feel. They're saying the same thing about you. They can't control what I think, do, or feel. So if I'm feeling frustrated, irritated, angry, I am generating that. And this recognition that I'm generating it gives me control over it. If I focus this energy on the things I have control over.
But here's the prison that we're living in right now. So many of us. Okay, I don't control what other people think, do, or feel. But they control what I think, what I do, and what I feel. But that's how we act. That's exactly how we behave.
Well, and that's when I say it to people, they'll be complaining about somebody. I'll say, wait a minute, what's fundamental number one? And they'll look at me and hang their head in shame and say, I know, I don't control them. But what they're missing the point on is they're giving total control of themselves over to them. Mm-hmm. It's all my fault. Well, that's not a message of depression. That's a message of empowerment, because if you can create depression, you can create happiness. Mm-hmm. If you can create frustration, you can create peace. If you can create irritation with your granddaughter, you can create acceptance and roll with the flow.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you did. As you assessed the situation and saw what mood she was in, I can't control what mood she is in, but I can control how I respond to her mood. And hopefully make this a smooth transition.
It was much smoother.
Ah.
It was way better.
Once you know what, I don't control her. I'll control how I respond, what I'm thinking about. I shift my plans from going in and playing with her for a few minutes because she's not in the mood. I'm going to just kind of politely deliver her to her grandma, her Gigi, and be on my way. It was a smooth transition for your granddaughter. It was a smooth transition for you out of the house.
So to the parent out there who tries to get 5 kids ready in the morning and get them to school on time and then get to work on time, it's not like we don't feel your pain.
Right.
But really starting to embrace this as a reality will ultimately benefit. It might take some work. And you might have to,
there's other strategies in parenting, but this is the deal. Once I recognize if I'm frustrated and irritated with my kids, what can I do? Well, if I'm directing my energy at making them mind, I'm going to be frustrated and irritated even more.
Yeah.
But if I direct my energy at learning new parenting strategies for parenting 5 kids instead of 2, and go learn those things, then I start making effective use of this power that I have. And a very wise, brilliant, and intelligent gentleman that I know who has a doctorate.
Okay, that puts me out of the picture.
That's not Mike. Had one parenting strategy, period. And he used it to the fullest. And he ran the house like a drill sergeant. And when it wasn't effective, he became more of a drill sergeant. crazy as doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Well, when something you do doesn't work, you just start doing it more intensely.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to control somebody else. Well, he has stepped back from that and taken some parenting classes, workbooks, whatever. And he's like eyes wide open. Oh my God, there's many different ways to handle these situations that are so effective.
Mm-hmm.
And, 5 years ago, that would have been, against his ego to, I know what I'm doing. My parents raised me, I'll raise my kids, blah, 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 blah. But once he has stepped back and said, you know what, this isn't working, let me learn something new, he's excited. And things are going so much more smoothly for him. So yes, we're talking about one little child in the 5-minute transition, and you ladies out there with 5 children are turning us off going, you don't know what we're talking about. No, I don't. But I do know there are very effective coaches and parenting teachers and workbooks and online classes and videos that teach how to do those things much more effectively than.
And this is a great place to start.
This is a great place to start because you can start plugging information in from other sources into this model, because it's not just about anger ultimately.
Yeah.
It's about being effective, dealing with other people so that the outcomes are equally beneficial.
Yep.
Resolving problems rather than creating them or blaming other people for them.
So the Chiefs are going back to the Super Bowl.
You had to go there.
Oh, they're headed back 3 in a row, back to back. And one of the main reasons that they are going back to the Super Bowl is because of the mind control that Patrick Mahomes has on the field. He is under control.
Mm-hmm.
The game is slower for him than most quarterbacks who are panicked and freaked out and constantly out of control. He is under control, which helps him to control the game. And so imagine what our lives will look like when we are under control. Starts with us. I control me. I'm going to get myself under control and then see what happens in life around me.
I'm not a huge Chiefs fan, but I will tell you, watching that game, rooting for Patrick Mahomes because he's a homeboy from Texas Tech.
Yeah.
There were a couple of points where I was ready to close my eyes because I thought he was going to get whacked.
Yeah.
But he was standing there so calmly, and I could just hear him thinking, I got another second.
Yep.
I got one more second to get this done.
And his seconds are long.
Oh. Because somebody's hitting him and he's releasing the ball, and it's so perfectly accurately thrown to a spot that nobody would have ever predicted, and just the ultimate mind control is exhibited by an athlete like Patrick Mahomes.
Under the most extreme pressure in sport, I believe that you can have.
Mm-hmm.
You got 300-pound manimals trying to murder you, and you got to make sure you see the open receiver and then get him the ball.
Yeah.
All within a matter of seconds. And it's just, if you may not like Patrick Mahomes or the Chiefs, you root for somebody else, that's great. But we can appreciate what they're doing, and he's leading the way. So, good stuff, Doc.
Anger Management, Chapter 3, Boundaries.
Is life-changing stuff. Woo! Thank you. Next week, Chapter 4. If you haven't had a chance to go out and get the book, you can get it online at all the book locations. Anger Management, transform anger into advantage.
We will see you guys next week.
Ooh, yeah. Thank you, Doc. It's awesome. Awesome.